everyone, welcome back to Heather Travels. Today's video is a follow-up from Megan's music trip to New Orleans, and in today's video I'm actually going to talk about pros and cons of large group travel. Now, I was hoping Megan could join me for today's video, but she still doesn't have a voice. So I'm making this video without her. We decided that this one was one I could do without her and just use her trip as an example. These things could apply to any trip that you're taking in a large group. So that could be, maybe your cruise ship is chartered, or you're on a big bus tour like she was, like through a travel organization like we have Holiday Travel around here, or something like that. So anytime you're in a large group situation where basically you as an individual, or maybe a couple, maybe it's you and a friend, are traveling with a whole bunch of people that you don't know, or you only know slightly. So that's what I'm kind of talking about here. I have to say, I have never actually done this. Other than I remember when my mom and I were in Paris, I did book a couple of tours. Like we took a day trip to Versailles on a bus with a whole bunch of other tourists, and we were in a large group like touring around Versailles and stuff like that. That's kind of really the only kind of thing I've done as a large group where I booked something, and this could apply to that too. But yeah, otherwise I haven't done a lot of large group travel, but obviously my kids have, because my kids have taken, between the two oldest of them now, 3 of these large group trips where there were 350, 400 people on a trip. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 pros and 3 cons. First, the pros. One of the pros of taking large group travel is price. You can get a really good deal on a trip that you might want to go on anyway if you're willing to travel in a large group, because group discounts, they will give large groups a big break on price when you have all these people coming. So just getting a really good price on your trip might be worth it to you. Okay, so that's the first one. Second pro of large group travel is access. You may be able to get into certain places that you wouldn't if you were traveling on your own. Or you might get some behind the scenes access that you wouldn't if you were traveling on your own. This is especially true of some exclusive tours and things like that. Being in a group will give you some access to attractions or historical places, or different things in cities or whatever that you might not be able to get to if you were just doing something by yourself. An example of this from Megan's trip would be like what they had arranged at Mardi Gras World. That was a group thing. Or like when they went on the riverboat Natchez, groups could book whatever they did on the riverboat. I'm not exactly sure if that really applies, but stuff like that. So access is the second pro. The third pro of large group travel is convenience. You are paying for this package and everything is taken care of for you. They arrange the hotel, they arrange all the meals, they arrange the transportation, maybe they even buy travel insurance for everybody. Everything is covered and you just get to sit back and relax, and you're kind of along for the ride. This has been true of all of the school trips that my son has taken, both in high school and in college. It was a large group travel experience where all the tours were planned, all the lodging was planned, many of the meals were planned, the transportation was all planned, it was all booked for you. You just pay the money and you go. So that convenience might be something that really appeals to you if you're not into the intricacies of having to make all the decisions and do all the planning. So that can be a pro of large group travel. Okay, now let's go to the cons. One of the cons of large group travel, and these were all very true for Megan on this last trip, is personal space and privacy. Okay? First of all, in most large group travel situations, or many of them, you're traveling on a bus. Now, you might not always be traveling on a bus, but for some of the trip, you're probably going to be traveling on a bus. Buses certainly aren't my favorite form of transportation. Okay, sometimes buses are awesome. Public transportation's great. I'm all for it. It helps with, preventing climate change and all that stuff. But buses aren't necessarily the most private, personal, comfortable ways to travel. So to a limited degree, I can handle a bus, but poor Megan on that bus for 21, 22, 23 hours each way, that was torture. Especially when you're on a bus with 48 other teenagers and they're eating and they're smelly and everybody's got to share the little bathroom in the back. That's no fun, okay? The second thing I was talking about with space and privacy is you're usually going to be sharing a room. So whether it's on a cruise ship or in a hotel, you're sharing a room, maybe, probably, with someone you don't know or someone you only barely know. Like for Andrew on both the college trips that he took, the J-term study abroads, and I'll put a link up above to where I talked about that. He was sharing a hotel room. Now, granted, a couple times I think he had to be with 2 other guys, but you were at least with 1 or 2 or 3 other people that he'd never met before. And like on this trip for Megan, they stayed at a Hilton Garden Inn, which was very nice and newly renovated, but she's sharing the hotel room with 3 other teenage girls. Now, she was friends with all of them, but that still means you have to share a bed with, somebody else. And she was kind of like really concerned about that. It turned out to be no big deal, but still, if you're not comfortable sharing a bed with somebody or you're not comfortable sharing a bedroom with somebody in a bathroom, that might be really awkward and a deal breaker for you. So space and privacy is a con. Lack of space and lack of privacy, I guess I should say, is a con of large group travel. The second con of large group travel is this kind of combining 2 things, a lack of choice and a lack of free time. This would kind of be the flip side of that convenience coin. So yeah, they make all the decisions for you. They decide how you're going to get there. They decide how you're going to get from place to place. They decide what tours you're going to go on, what sites you're going to see, where you're going to stay, and maybe even what you're going to eat, or at least where you're going to eat. The problem with that is you don't get to decide any of those things. Maybe you don't want to go to that place. Maybe you don't want to stay in that hotel. Maybe you wouldn't choose that restaurant. So if you don't like not being able to make any of these choices, then large group travel probably isn't for you. On Megan's recent trip especially, she really never got to decide where to eat. She could decide in some cases what to eat, but all of the restaurants were picked out for her and they didn't get any choice in the matter at all. Okay, the third con for large group travel is, I guess, dealing with people. You're in this group going together with them and you have to deal with these people that you probably don't really know and maybe you're never going to see again. I mean, maybe you'll meet some new people that you really like and you'll make friends. Cool. But for the most part, you're moving in a group with people who may or may not be like you. And they might annoy you. And they might drive you nuts. And you might be sick to death of them by the time you're done with that trip. So I read somewhere, I've seen this, I don't know, you've probably seen this in memes or stuff on the internet. It says, never travel with anyone that you don't love. So if you're not comfortable traveling with strangers and having to deal with the idiosyncrasies of other people that you don't really know, group travel probably isn't for you. So yeah, so there are 3 pros and 3 cons to large group travel, and hopefully that will help you decide whether large group travel is something that you want to pursue in the future. Thank you guys for joining me today on Heather Travels. Safe travels.
We can make a wildfire get away.